Hey everybody, it's me again. I'm Bill, the company's expert, and welcome to Q&A, because like I always say, there's no stupid questions, only stupid people. I'm just kidding, but not really. Anyway, I don't get a lot of stupid questions, actually. I've gotten some pretty intelligent questions, and today we're going to talk about how to leave a job or how to quit a job, because this is one of the questions I received, and this one is from Igor Kristyakov, if I'm saying that right. Hello, Bill. Could you please give your perspective on how to ethically leave one's current job? I get that I should tie all loose ends and preferably find a substitute, but how does one bring up the topic, not burn any bridges or anything? Thanks in advance. I also want to thank you for your content. Oh, I got to read this part. Your videos have been a great help to both prepare for upcoming interviews and analyze past interviews. Well, thank you very much. I'm glad they're working out. Many people praise your efficient narration. Oh, yeah. But I'd like to point out background music for once. Oh, I don't know if you want to go there. Igor, you might get an argument on that one. It sets the right mood, making me feel like the right guy for the place. Great choice. Well, thank you, Igor. You should feel like the right guy for the place, because the reality is that we all have a unique combination of experiences, traits, opinions, talents, and abilities. And out there is a job that you're perfect for. Each and every one of you guys watching this video, out there is a job that is perfect for you. The real question is, can you connect with that job? Okay. And that's what we're all about here on this channel. Okay. So excellent question. So how to ethically leave one's job? Well, listen, this is kind of a complicated question because it depends on the situation you're in. There's many scenarios here of how you would leave a job. Sometimes it's on good terms, sometimes it's on bad terms, and everything in between. So you bring up a great question. Now, I take from your question that you're leaving on good terms because you're talking about finding a substitute, having a substitute in place, and having, a seamless transition when you leave and all this kind of stuff, which is great. That employer, I think, is really lucky to have you if that's your attitude. The key for a lot of these things is that you need to give, if you're leaving on good terms, then you have the option of giving plenty of notice, okay? I once gave 9 months notice of me leaving a job. I was a manager at the time, and our company had just been acquired, and I got a taste of the new owners and the new culture that was coming in, and I said, look, I'm going to help with the transition and the post-merger integration, and I'm going to leave after that. And that went over really well, and they didn't march me out the door. They didn't label me as some kind of a turncoat or someone that's betraying them, and it was the right thing to do in that situation. However, there's many other jobs out there that I would not do that because the attitudes of the employer are definitely not as benevolent, and it would be to your detriment to behave like that and to give them all this notice and to announce what you're doing and things like that. That can really be taken advantage of by the employer to undermine you and sabotage you under different circumstances. So it's a very delicate issue. Okay. Now, the standard thing that I think a lot of people say for this is that you should inform people in person. Okay. So you don't inform them over an email that you're leaving. Okay, you do that in person. You have your email, you have to send an email to make it official, right? You don't want to leave things down to a conversation. And this is for most professional type jobs. If you're working on a construction site, it might be a little bit different, but if you're working in a professional setting, you're a knowledge worker or you're some kind of professional, then this is the process to follow. Okay, you do them the courtesy of telling them in person. Okay, you give your notice, and then you shortly thereafter send your email that goes to not only your manager, but maybe your manager's manager and also maybe to the HR department to inform them. And you don't have to say a lot. You just have to say, I'm leaving, I'm resigning, I'm giving you notice, I'm going to leave on this date, right? And I'm willing to work for the remaining 2 weeks. And the other thing is that you don't want to, if possible, it may not always be possible, but you don't want to arouse their ire, to get them really mad at you, okay? Because a lot of people will interpret you giving notice as some kind of personal betrayal. And a lot of people are not very good. They don't have very good people skills, and they tend to be very emotional. They tend to take things very personally. Let's face it, this is a professional decision, okay? It's not personal. Now, if somebody wants to make it personal, that's up to them. And if they do that, it can have consequences for you, but that's why you do this properly, right? You do this in such a way that it minimizes any issues for you, okay? Now, in some situations, as soon as you give your notice, they'll march you right out the door, okay? That's a thing. So if you think that's likely to happen where you work, prepare for that, okay? Get all your stuff done in advance, like if you want to clean out all your personal belongings or, do other things before you leave, do that first, okay? Because I think a standard scenario is that if you say you're leaving and you're going to work for the company's competitor, they will interpret that as, oh, you're some kind of traitor that's no longer loyal to us, and they'll march you out. I've had that happen to me. First professional job I had in my career, that's what happened. And I wasn't the only one, by the way, but yeah, that is a thing, and I know that's happened to many people since. I'm certainly not the only one. So the point is, you've got to make a decision first, okay? If you're thinking you want to quit or you want to leave, you fully examine that decision first before you inform anybody at your workplace, okay? That's the critical thing. If you're thinking of leaving, don't go and talk to your boss about it. That would be my advice, okay? There may be exceptions to this, but I think overwhelmingly that would be a bad idea, because what they'll do is they'll say, oh, this person is no longer loyal to me. They're betraying me. They're wanting to leave and go somewhere else. We're not good enough for them, right? They'll take that personally. They'll get their emotions involved, and they will take steps that will minimize the damage for them, but will come out worse for you. There also could be an element of like a punitive type thing where they want to hurt you, in some way. It's been known that if you say, I'm leaving and I'm going to this company, it has been known that certain employers will then sabotage your new job by contacting them and saying a few unsavory things to them about you, okay? So especially if that job it's not really in the bag. I mean, you might have a contract, but, until you actually start there, it's not over. It's not in the bag till it's in the bag, right? Till you're actually working there. So you got to be aware of this, okay? Now, when it comes to giving notice, okay, a common question people say is, do I have to give notice? How much notice do I have? Okay, depending where you are, they will have rules about this, okay? They're called employment standards regulations, okay? So in North America, in Europe, you have laws depending on your country and upon your region that will say, if you've worked this amount of time, then if you're leaving, you need to give this much notice, okay? The rule of thumb is 2 weeks, but that varies, okay? What that means is that the employer has to essentially pay you for that time. They can march you out the door and say, you're done. You're done now, okay? I'm going to walk you to the door and you're not allowed to come back. They have to pay you for the next 2 weeks, but they don't have to let you work. That is also a common thing that's written into these employment standards regulations that you can look up in your region, okay? If I were you, I would go to Google and type in employment standards and then your region, like either your country or the part of your country you're in, and see what pops up. Usually the actual laws pop up, okay? And you can read them for yourself, okay? Do you have to give reasons for why you're leaving? I would say no, because nobody cares, really. The bottom line is you're leaving, right? Like, for example, think of, if you're in a personal relationship with somebody and you break up, like you can give reasons, but they're almost unimportant at that point. what's overwhelmingly important is that you're leaving, and it almost doesn't matter why. It just, you are. If you've made the decision and you're not going back, that's the only thing that matters. So this may vary, but I would advise don't discuss it with your supervisor, your manager, with your coworkers, with anybody at your workplace. Okay, don't talk about it before you give your notice. Okay, before you pull the trigger on this. Okay. The other thing is that, and I think YouTube is also famous for this. People quitting in spectacular style, right? You make a big spectacle of you quitting. I'm not going to go into detail, but all things being equal, don't do that. That's just a bad idea. It can really burn bridges for you. I mean, I haven't always followed that. There's a job, at least one job, that I quit in my early 20s, in not spectacular fashion, but I certainly wasn't professional about it. Let's put it that way. It's not a good thing. Okay, it's if you're the type of person that wants to do that, I would advise against it. You may be able to get away with it. I'm not saying it's always going to bite you. It may not bite you, but you never really know. So if there's any chance it might, don't do it. Okay. The other thing is that people aren't stupid. They probably know why you left. Okay. It won't be a huge mystery a lot of the time, most of the time, why you left. Okay. So you don't have to engage with it. And in any case, it doesn't matter. Like reasons, the reasons why you're leaving, they matter to you at that time. It's probably the number one thing that's in your head at that time. You're leaving because of this, and to you, this is like the most important thing in the world. And to you, everyone should know this, and everyone should take note of it and be aware of it. The reality is that your perspective is usually skewed. Okay. Nobody cares why you're leaving, and neither should you. If it's a bad situation, put it behind you. Okay. It's frustrating as hell. Maybe a source of considerable stress in some situations, but just move on. And by that, I mean, end it as soon as you can and move on to something new. So you're concerned with something new as soon as possible. And time will allow you to feel better about the whole thing, and you won't be quite as stressed out and feeling anxiety over it. Okay. So that's the reality. Just get over it as soon as possible. They're not worth your time to think about them and obsess over them and stress about them that much. Okay. The other kind of part of this is, I don't know if you've heard an expression, no one's irreplaceable. Well, that's true. It's true and it's false. Okay. It's true in the sense that employers think that way. And I've thought that way too. Okay. Sometimes because you have to think that way. If a person is leaving, you have no choice but to think that way. Okay. And they can always get another person to put in that job. However, it is also false. People are irreplaceable. Out there, for example, there's nobody else out there just like you. Okay. You're not replaceable. Okay. You're unique. And some people are perfectly suited to jobs, and some people do a hell of a lot of good in a job, and you can't just replicate that by the next person that comes along. Okay. So it's false, but companies behave like it's true. Okay. So, they act like it's true. You just have to get used to that. Now, when you leave, okay, another thing I wanted to mention is when you leave, give as little info as possible. Okay, give the things you're required to do legally. Inform them you're leaving. Give them the last date that you're going to work. Like, so you say you're going to work your notice period. Okay. And then beyond that, there's really not much from a legal sense that you need to say. Okay. The problem is the more information you give, like, oh, I'm going to work at this other place, and this is going to be my new boss, and this is what I'm going to do, and this is why I'm leaving. It might be enjoyable for you, gratifying to give some of this extra information, but it exposes you to a lot of risk. Like I say, it has been known that a lot of employers can sometimes sabotage jobs that their employees are leaving to go to. okay? And things like this. There's not going to be a lot of great feelings usually when somebody leaves, okay? Sometimes there is if you're leaving on very good terms, because maybe there's a real chance you could come back in a couple of years, and you want to leave it open to that. You have great personal relationships with some of the decision makers there. That's great. But a lot of times that's not the situation you're in. Unless you really, really feel close to these people, I'd say it's not going to happen, because all things being equal, you're signaling that you don't have their back by leaving. Okay, so that's kind of what the reality is, whether you see that or not. That's kind of what's going on. So, I say that because I say give as little information as possible. Okay, just the basic facts. And the other thing is that 30 years ago, quitting a job used to be a big deal. It used to be a much bigger deal than it is now. A generation ago, people didn't quit jobs quite as often as they do now. Now people are moving around all the time, right? The employment landscape has changed a little bit, and now people stay at jobs for only a couple of years on average, and then they leave. So this is a increasingly common thing, okay? And the bottom line is that it's becoming almost commonplace. So it's really not that big of a deal. Don't freak out about it if you're leaving a job and you don't know how to. Tell people, if you have to write an email, which you should do, keep it short, keep it friendly, say, hello, I'd just like you to know that I am decided to resign my position here. I've decided to leave, to quit, this company, the name of the company, this day. Thank you very much for, my experiences over the last, couple of years. I have no harsh feelings towards anyone. You guys are awesome. Thank you. This will be my last date. I'm working my notice. If you wish to discuss, let me know. Thank you very much. Something like that. I mean, I'm just making this up off the top of my head. I might rephrase that, but that's the bottom line. I'm leaving. Here's my notice. Thank you very much. Goodbye. Okay? That's all you got to say. And then just act friendly to people. And that should be the way to do it. Okay? That way you reduce your risk, minimize the drama and the stress, and you comply with all the legal requirements, and it's as clean and simple and easy as possible. So I hope that helps. Thank you very much for watching this long. You guys are all awesome. And if you're in this situation right now, I feel for you. Emotions run high when it comes to this kind of thing. It can be pretty tough in the moment, but it's really temporary. Okay, that's what you got to remember. And it's very liberating when you finally leave. Okay, you feel such a weight off your shoulders, and the thing to do is to start thinking about something else as soon as you can, whatever that is. If that's a new job that you're going to, just put it behind you and move on, and life goes on. Okay, thank you very much. You guys are awesome. I'll see you on the next video. Take care.